to focus on this issue of the spiritual dimension of service learning. It's something that has been studied very few occasions and in very few places, and that's one of the main focus of Universitates. So we are starting to think about it in the board, in the research and reflection team, and we are starting now to discuss it with you. I would like to start by remembering that in 2015, when the Pope gathered this huge education conference in the Vatican, the Congregation for Catholic Education did a global survey on the vision of Catholic education, asking school principals, Catholic universities, authorities, professors, people involved in Catholic education all around the world about their vision on Catholic education. And two very different images emerged from that survey. The Catholic education as a fortress, the place where we defend the Catholic values against the barbarian forces of agnosticism, atheism, and other religions, and we stand firm in our convictions and separate ourselves from those who doesn't believe in the same things that we believe. And the idea of Catholic education as a fountain, as a place where the word of God and the love of God can reach every creature and is open for anyone interested in reaching to that fountain. Thanks God, the difference was 75 against 25. 75% were agreed with the fountain image. And I would like to start by saying Universitate is firmly standing in the fountain image of the Catholic education. So when we talk about spirituality, we have to depart from an idea of Catholic higher education that wants to provide an integral education involving heads, hands, and hearts for everybody. And our idea of evangelization is not imposing to anybody by force anything. We are not asking our students to go through the Inquisition before entering the university. We want the community of witnesses, build experiences of the nearness of God for everybody, but we don't want to impose our beliefs to anybody. We do certainly want to establish a coherent dialogue between science and faith from our perspective, because we are a Catholic institution and we have the right to expose what we think, but in a dialogue between science and faith. And the third main point is we want to be witnesses of our faith, being a university outward bound, going outside towards the existential peripheries, what in Spanish we say una universidad en salida. So from this point of view of this kind of Catholic higher education, we depart from a humanistic anthropology that from the Renaissance, from the 15th century, is a common foundation of many of our higher education institutions, even the late ones. Even the very late French Revolution started with fraternité, not only liberté, égalité, not only liberty and equality, but also fraternity. And from our point of view, the human being is this handful of relationships, the horizontal relationship with our brothers and sisters towards a universal fraternity, and these vertical relationships we establish as administrators of nature, and the spiritual dimension, the contact with God for those who believe, and the search for a sense of life, for the spiritual dimension of mystery of life for those who doesn't have a particular religion. From this point of view, I would say that spirituality, when we talk about the spiritual dimension of service learning, involves different things for different people. For people who don't believe in God or who are agnostic, for students and professors who don't believe in God, spirituality may mean the questions about the sense of life, about this mystery dimension of life that I think every honest person, every rigorous thinking person at one point or other has to ask himself or herself about the questions that science is not answering, that logic and mathematics are not answering. But then there are many of our students and our professors that recognize this personal connection with the transcendental dimension of life. For some of them, it's like you remember the passage of St. Paul in Athens in Greece when he speaks to the Greeks about the temple for the unknown God. Even people who doesn't have a particular God may recognize, as the old Greek did, this presence of something transcendental, a kind of divinity with whom they can have a connection. And then there are the religious relationships with the divinity. Religious, we all know religious means exactly establishing a relationship. And this relationship, in some cases, is a very personal relationship. And we have heard hundreds of times our students saying, I speak with God, but I don't want to know anything about church. And that happens in many religions. And so we have people with a personal relationship with the divinity, but also people who recognize the need to contact with God and establish a religious relationship within a religious community. And depending on the contents and on the continents and our context, it may be Buddhism, Taoism, Islam, other Christian churches. And when we go into Christianity, we are talking about a religious relationship with divinity, but also with a personal or community relationship with Jesus, and belonging not to any kind of religious community, but to a specific church. And in our case as Catholic, it's a personal relationship with Jesus and with God that we develop as part of the Catholic Church community. So these are kind, in a very schematic way, of course, like the 7 kinds of different spiritualities we can find within a Catholic university, which, as we all know, is a plural environment. So at the effect of service learning, this leaves us with, I would say, 3 main groups within the university. Those who are atheists or agnostics, those who have a personal religious conviction, a non-Catholic religious conviction, and those who are already Catholic, whether they are recognizing the importance of the church or they are those kind of freelance Catholics. And so what the spirituality or the spiritual dimension of service learning can provide to these 3 groups. And this is very schematic, as it's just the starting point of our conversation. I think that for those who doesn't have a religious belief, service learning can contribute for the reflection on the sense of life, as a trajectory oriented by the values of solidarity, of fraternity, of social justice, and what does it mean to be a person oriented by the solidarity with others. For those who have a religious conviction, you may have heard, we probably all have heard about what it's called in philosophy, the golden rule, and in religion, this, do the others what you would like the others do to you, that it's a common and golden rule and a central part of most religions around the world. And I will go back to that. And then the specific Catholic spirituality for service learning. For the first point, the contribution for those who don't believe in religion, I think we can offer a very laity, but also a very spiritual reflection on the difference between solidarity and service. And we will have occasion to discuss this more during the course. But I think the reflection on the values of solidarity and the difference between giving and sharing, between being paternalistic and being fraternal, between being a self-serving giver because I want to feel well, and developing empathy and pro-social attitudes, that can provide our students who are not believers a very strong foundation for their life project, which is very compatible with a religious point of view. I'm running because I have very little time. For those who believe, and no matter what they believe, this golden rule, then do to others as you will have them do to you. As Hindus say, the sum of duty, do not do to others what would cause pain if done to you. Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, Taoism, and so many other religions have this golden rule. Para los que hablan castellano, tengo una versión más grande en castellano. This golden rule, or regla de oro, is a common ground we have between every religion and our Catholic spirituality. Our Catholic spirituality, we know that the main source to build the Catholic spirituality for service learning are the Bible, the Word of God, the Gospel, the social teaching of the Church as the way to go from the general ideas and the universal and eternal words of God to our present. And I think from a spiritual point of view, service learning can help go and meet Jesus in your brothers and sisters, serve them, but also learn from them. Pope Francis have very interesting pages in his first documents, saying that we go to the poor not only to serve them, but to learn from them. And the idea that we have to learn from the experience of suffering and the experience that the most vulnerable of our brothers and sisters are experiencing. I think this is a key point of any service learning spirituality. We are not only the givers, but we are always in debt with our brothers and sisters, but we are also in debt with them because we learn so much from them, and we have to approach them with that kind of respect and willingness to learn from them. And also there's another dimension, which is the community dimension. When we build a community within the university that wants to serve our brothers and sisters, and we are explicit in as Jesus says in the gospel, that when two or more are united in my name, I am in the midst of them. Well, if we have the possibility to build these communities of service with Jesus in the midst, we are learning from him directly, and we are bringing him, even if don't mention him, even if we don't bring pamphlets or invite everybody to Mass, we will be bringing Jesus, and his presence will be felt, and he will touch the hearts. And last but not least, I think a service learning experience may be for our students an occasion to establish a personal relationship with God as a love that's been given, but also as a love that's been received. These are just very few points to start reflecting, and we sure will be having more time to reflect on these ideas through the program and later on. In the video you already seen, I mentioned this meditation that for me is key to the spirituality of service learning. Exams are a very important part of university life. And it's also an important part of our life trajectory, because in the last day, Jesus will ask us the questions of the final exam, as the Gospel say, when there will be those who will be at his right and those who will be at his left. And many of them will ask him, when did we gave you food or gave you drink or go with you when you were lonely? As the Pope says in Fratelli Tutti, we'll be surprised in the last day about who will be at the right of the Lord. Because the Lord will not be asking how many church documents you read or how many church documents you wrote, how many religious ceremonies you will attend, but he will be asking how much we have loved our brothers and sisters with deeds and in truth. So we think that if we provide opportunities for our students to do service learning and to learn how to serve the brothers and sisters, we are preparing them to be ready for the most important exams of all. And no matter if they are atheists, no matter if they are against the Catholic Church, they will be able to meet Jesus and have the right answers for the most important exam of all. So this is in a nutshell the first ideas to discuss spirituality of service learning within UNICEF. Thank you.